Hello, I'm Hannah Sukius, Head of Marketing at Aquapak, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to our webinar, in which our panel will be discussing whether fashion's packaging can help to save the planet. Before we start, I'm going to give you a little bit of housekeeping. This meeting is being recorded, but only panelist videos and names will show on the recording. You will be sent a link to the recording later this week for you to rewatch and share with colleagues. And it will also be on demand from our website, again, from later in the week. Please do ask questions via the chat box throughout the presentation, and we will answer as many of these as we can at the end of the session. If there's any that we can't answer during the session, we'll try and answer them personally to you as well. And finally, for everyone who ticked that they would like samples through the registration process, we will contact you after the webinar to confirm where you would like these sending to, and we'll get those out in the next few days. Just in case you've not come across Aquapak before, we make an innovative new polymer called Hydropol. It's an enabling technology that allows traditional plastics such as PE to be replaced, whilst maintaining the functionality of traditional plastics such as strength and barrier properties to oil, grease and gases. It enables end-of-life options and is designed for the circular economy. It can be used on its own or in combination with other materials to create a wide range of materials and packaging. For example, it can be used to blow into film, which is then made into garment bags and other bags, laminated onto paper for use in a wide range of applications, including mailing bags. We wanted to discuss with our panellists today whether fashion's packaging can help save the planet, as there's currently 350 metric tonnes of plastic produced every year, of which 5 million tonnes is used annually in the apparel industry just for garment bags alone. And so we're aware that there's a big push for consumers and brands alike to reduce plastic use, as well as post-consumer plastic pollution. We will be discussing some of the challenges that this brings and trying to solve this whilst also satisfying an increase in e-commerce. And as we go through, we'll share some of the solutions that Aquapak is collaboratively involved in. So with that, I'm delighted to introduce you to our panellists today, whom we've met through various projects being run in collaboration with Aquapak. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Niamh to you. Niamh O'Leary is the Product Development Manager at Finisterre. Finisterre is based in Cornwall in the UK and was founded as a pioneering sustainable outdoor brand, built to inspire a love of the sea and anchored in exceptional product. They're a certified B Corporation and continually work to deliver a positive impact through their founding commitments to people, environment and product. Niamh was the lead in the project to become the first fashion brand to use garment bags made from Hydropol, and she'll share her story a little later about how this came about and the positive impact this has had on both their customers and business. Rebecca Picard is the founder of Eco Garment Bags and is based in Vietnam. So thank you for joining us so late in your day. She first came across garment bags made from Hydropol through her other company, Source Studio, when she started looking for sustainable options for her designer brand clients across the UK, Europe, Australia and the US. Eco Garment Bags enables brands of all sizes to replace their polythene bags with compostable, biodegradable and water-soluble alternatives. Also with us today is Zach Lowe, who's the Product Development Director at Europackaging and heads up their award-winning design and innovation team known as EP Design House. Established in 1974, Europackaging is one of the UK's leading packaging manufacturers and suppliers into major blue-chip retailers. From Aquapak's side, we're delighted that Dr. John Williams is with us. He's a globally recognised expert in bioplastics, a chartered chemist and fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry. And as our Chief Technical Officer at Aquapak Polymers, he leads our experienced technical and research team. Also with us is Carl Sittard, who is Aquapak's Sales Director in North America and is based in Massachusetts on the East Coast. He works with brands looking to use less plastic in their packaging and works with them to identify solutions available using Hydropol and connecting them with our partners who are making and distributing products using our enabling technology. So thank you all for joining us for this discussion. So I think where I'd like to start is just asking, why is plastic such an issue in the fashion industry and what's prompting that change? And perhaps, Niamh, you could start, and maybe Rebecca, you could add your thoughts to that.
Great, thanks Hannah, lovely intro. Yeah, plastic is a big problem in the fashion industry, as probably everybody listening is aware of, and one of the biggest problems is the garment bag. It's an essential piece of kit because you need it to bring the product to the customers from the factories in good condition. So it serves an amazing purpose. You know, it keeps any water, oil, dirt, anything off of your garments during shipment and while in warehousing and storage. But once it gets into a customer's hands, that's the end of it, really. So it really has a single use. And there are that many being created in the world. It has become a huge, huge problem. So for us as a business, it was a really obvious target to try and find a solution for. I think as well, probably the world in general is waking up a little bit to climate change and is becoming more and more aware of a plastic problem. So there's quite a lot of pressure from our side anyway, being a sustainable business. There's always pressure from our customers to try and, you know, push us to do better. And as a B Corp company living by the ocean, that's one of our main goals. So that's kind of my side of things.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely agree with all of those points. There are some figures. So the figure is, for the fashion industry, it's 100 billion garment bags are used each year. Now, I work very much in the production side of things. So I watch every single garment being placed in a poly bag, transported to the warehouse or to the retailer, and that is thrown away immediately. So it's a single-use plastic, which now there are solutions to.
So is this unique to the fashion world, or is it kind of a wider problem? What are your thoughts, Carl and Zach?
I think from my perspective, obviously the garment bag is something that is very fashion specific, but in terms of, if you look at the secondary packaging, so the actual transit packaging once the product been ordered online, I think that is something that, you know, we've seen other industries where laws and legislation have phased out single-use plastics. But I think in e-commerce, where obviously fashion is quite prominent, we believe that that's an area where, you know, we really do need to change. If you look at although some of the big brands are starting to migrate to paper mailing bags, such as Nike and Zara, the majority of people still use plastic mailers. And whilst they have got high levels of recycled content in them, the big challenge is end of life. I did some research only over this week, and it's actually dropped. Only 14% of UK local authorities actually accept a plastic bag for recycling, irrespective of whether it's technically recyclable or not. So that's a huge problem. And I think with mailing bags as well, or the e-commerce bags, they're a bit different to old school carrier bags, where at least with an old school carrier, potentially you could reuse it for something else. Whereas for a mailing bag, a lot of garments are shipped in from their UK warehouse into the end customer. Unless I'm going to return that item, and those rates vary, but unless I'm going to return it, that bag immediately becomes redundant. I've got nothing else to do with it. I can't recycle it at home, and I can't really reuse it, so it just goes straight into the bin. So I think that's a huge opportunity where we can try and innovate and make things better.
What are you finding over in the States, Carl?
Yeah, Hannah. So your question is it a broader issue? And absolutely. I mean, even bigger than just what's being faced in the fashion industry. I mean, we're seeing especially the B Corps becoming really serious in the fashion space, as our other panelists have pointed out. But then in flexible consumer packaging, it's the same issue. So it's a broader set of levers that are being worked on, and I think we're at a real inflection point here in the States to to tackle the problems with new solutions. And we're hopeful that Hydropole will play a big part in solving some of those problems.
Thank you. So Niamh and Rebecca, first of all, what kind of inspired your companies to look for alternatives? I mean, Niamh, was it to do with becoming a B Corp, or did it start earlier than that? How did you begin your journey in looking for something that's different, that's going to help save the planet? Because I know that's something your company's really passionate about.
Yeah, no, it started earlier than becoming a B Corp. Even before I started at Finisterre, and I've been there for nearly 9 years, there was investigations into corn bags and corn starch, potato starch, stuff like that. But as our business grew and, you know, we were placing more and more orders, it was something that really we couldn't ignore anymore, and we needed to find a good solution. So myself and our product director, Debbie, we investigated quite a few different avenues, and we thought maybe compostable, maybe, you know, biodegradable, all these different avenues. And as we were going down them, we were finding that there was quite a lot of greenwashing. Like, you really had to investigate deeply to get a good understanding, and you had to have a little bit of know-how as well. So I think it's quite difficult for people, if you believe what you read and what's put in front of you, it can be quite damaging, really, because you think you're doing a good thing, but you might not necessarily be doing the best thing. And then we happened upon Aquapak, and I went for a meeting with John and Mark in December 2018, and they showed us Hydropol, and our minds were just blown. Basically, it was everything that we had been looking for, because our main concern is the end of life, and if that bag does happen to leach into the natural environment, especially being the brand that we are and positioned where we are, we're really, really keen to keep our oceans safe and healthy. So we don't want anything that will create microplastics. So when John and Mark showed me the bags, I was absolutely in heaven, really. I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. This is groundbreaking. This is something I never could have even thought about, you know. Honestly, I came out of the meeting with such a hope, feeling like, yeah, here we go. This is a possibility now, that there is a solution out there for us.
I'd say from my point of view, because I've been working in Vietnam for the last 10 years, working with different international brands, and I was increasingly being asked for more and more sustainable solutions. So the difficult thing for smaller brands is it's very difficult to be able to change the fabric, because sustainable fabric isn't necessarily available in the lower volumes. So we shifted our focus to look at what we could do with the packaging, which actually seems like it's the easiest solution, it's the fastest solution to solve. However, I had exactly the same problem. I went through different technologies. I was told how the bags would actually be able to handle the protection of the garment during the transportation, whereas a lot of the time that just wasn't true. The bags were either disintegrating, or they didn't have, the film wasn't clear, and of course we need to be able to read the barcodes. So I went through a lot of different products as well, and really trying to identify what I could actually recommend for my clients to use specifically for the garment bags, and to find a replacement. So having come across Aquapak and understanding the technology, and understanding that all of the afterlife benefits that it offers, and also being able to have a truly clear material that is suitable to protect the garment during transportation, for me was amazing. And since that, I've been recommending all of my clients to use that. But of course, what I really want to do is make a much bigger impact, and make a global impact, and tell fashion brands that this solution actually does exist, because I went through all the difficulties of actually finding something that was suitable myself. So now that I've selected it for my clients, I'm on a mission to spread the word and let other brands know also that there's the solution. So with eco garment bags, because my background again is working with the smaller brands, I've made sure that we are able to supply the smaller brands as well, from just 500 units. But it's also very important for me that the industry in general makes those changes. So I'm helping now in Vietnam make sure that we've got production locally, also in Southeast Asia, to make sure that we can supply the factories directly, which is ideal also for the larger brands. So really trying to scream about the technology, get the word out there as much as possible, and really help brands find the right solution, which I think we've got.
Just jumping to you, John, for a second. How big an issue is greenwashing across the fashion industry, do you think?
I think anything which is where you find it the most is directly consumer facing. It is partly because transcribing any message to the consumer is sometimes difficult in terms that, you know, they generally understand. So sometimes that either accidentally promotes a wrong message, or in some cases, of course, deliberately promotes a wrong message, depending on the material choices and so forth. There's also a little bit of obfuscation due to different global standards around sort of waste and how to deal with it. So there's a bit of a, in some cases, as we've seen certainly in Europe, a bit of a defensive strategy from the waste industry to perhaps not engage as rapidly as one might in terms of innovative technologies which are going to get around some of these solutions and take that greenwashing away. But there are clearly some materials out there that do claim things that they can't deliver, that's for sure.
Thank you. And Zach, you've been using Hydropol as a lining for a mailing bag. What was your story? Why were you looking for something different?
Well, I think I can echo with it what everyone else has said so far. I mean, over the years, we've looked at so many different materials, you know, looking at the whole compostable films and biodegradable technologies. And we took a step back and we started to think, well, actually, what's the problem here? And the problem is really, it's the material disposal. You know, if you look at all the, you know, I think we all agree the issue that plastic is, the impact it has on the environment, but it hasn't, you know, that part of the problem is how we've disposed of that, and there's not the infrastructure there to handle it properly. So one of the phrase or the terms or the actual actions I think everyone understands, and when we're dealing with the public, is recyclability tends to be uniformly understood. And particularly if I can recycle something at home, you know, I don't want to have to take my products and trek back to a supermarket to put it at the front of the shop. I don't want to have to put myself out to do that. Unfortunately, a lot of us, you know, that's the nature of our mentality. But so if I can have something that I can literally recycle with my paper, that to me is a big tick box. So we've been working with Aquapak for a number of years, and I remember when, you know, we first saw the hydropol laminated paper, straight away I just thought this is perfect for mailing bags, because it gives you the flexibility of a polymer or of a plastic film, so it's very easy to pack into, and you've got that flexibility. But also, and whether I agree with this or not, it's fact, the customer perception plays a huge part in product success. You know, I read something again only a few days ago, I think it's from a European study, where almost 70% of consumers said that paper was the best solution for the environment. Now, whether we agree with that or not, but ultimately that's the demand in what, you know, the consumers are looking and asking for. So for the laminated paper with hydropol, I say it's fantastic because it looks like a paper, it feels a little bit like a paper, it's got that flexibility, it can be recycled, so it ticks a lot of those boxes. It's not only ticking the actual, you know, technical recyclability of what we need, but it's also ticking the box of the consumer as well. So it was quite exciting collaboration. What we've done since on that is try to convert that material into a product that is different as well, and really created something that engages the end user. So rather than, you know, traditional mailer bags that are just ripped open and then they're probably difficult to reseal or they become useless straight away, you know, we've looked at, I've got a sample here, you know, we've looked at trying to innovate so the bag opens differently. So the perforation, the gusset, you can tear open, so you've got it's more interactive with the end user. And I think over you know, I've been in the industry for quite a number of years, and I'm sure the guys on the panel will agree with me that, you know, packaging now is such an emotional subject, and everyone's got an opinion. And, you know, with the nature of social media and YouTube, it's become much more of a prominent tool now. And, you know, if a brand has got terrible packaging, we all hear about it, you know. And I think so for us, we're just trying to make, in addition to the material, we're trying to make a product that engages the end user better, is more functional, and just makes that experience just a bit more user friendly.
Yeah, I would agree with Zach there massively. We use our bag, you know, as a marketing tool to engage with our customers. And I always like to say, like, you know, there's no sustainability without accessibility. And coming along with that, you need to educate people. And once you can engage with them and educate them, you find that, you know, the take up is so much better. And there's a lot of love we get from our customers for our bags, you know, and sometimes it's a surprise to them that even exists. You know, they've bought something from the brand because they want that, and then they get their bag and they're almost more excited about the bag because they've got this thing that's brand new to them in the world. And, you know, we're kind of like trying to empower our customers and telling them that you can get rid of this bag yourself. You throw it in the sink and throw a kettle of water over it, it will dissolve, it will disappear, it leaves no trace. you know, and we've found that's been really, really amazing engagement with our customers.
I think that's a great point. I think I mentioned on the negative part, but yeah, you do what you guys have done. If you actually have got a great product or a great piece of packaging, again, you have the opposite effect. And again, that's over social media, and it really snowballs. So I think that, you know, this collaboration, and, you know, particularly the guy doing it, I think it's got that great opportunity to really have that impact through those channels.
Mm-hmm.
Colin,
I think it's a great way. I mean, there is a story, there is the marketing that can be used as a story behind that as well. There's nothing wrong with getting a pat on the back for making the right decisions. So I think that's great. I very much encourage brands to do exactly the same. Make it a part of the story.
Carl, from your experience, are you seeing that brands are wanting to make change because they're getting pressure from their consumers first, or is it coming from the brands and them educating their customers, or a bit of both?
A little bit of both, I think. You know, I think corporately folks are taking it seriously in terms of their objectives around sustainability. And, you know, that ties with what consumers are demanding too. You know, they want to do the right thing. And like I like to say, it's not an all or none proposition. You have to get started. It's a monumental task in some cases to change packaging over to sustainable options, but you don't have to do it all in one fiscal year. You know, it can be a multi-year journey, and you've got to get started, and no better time to get started than now.
Helps if I take myself off mute. So John, is the end of life multiple options, is that something that you're discovering when talking to brands? That's a big draw, or because it's the consumers knowing what to do with it at the end, I guess, isn't it? It's always the big challenge.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, you know, you've got to think, you know, even from the relatively simple sort of plastic bag all the way through to more complex packaging that certainly Zach gets involved in, is that, you know, you've got some pretty difficult to deal with materials, actually, in terms of the waste end, and particularly when they're all commingled together. You know, where everything's mixed together. What do? You know, we've tried various methods in Europe, for example, and increasingly the US, of sort of telling people to segregate this and segregate that. But you've got to have routes through to, you know, real recyclability and disposal, not sort of just source segregation and hope it goes away in some other way, which is kind of what's happened. So the more, you know, it's a little bit like, just as you need functionality at the front end, i.e. the material's got to work, you need functionality at the end of life end. As many options as possible, and particularly, unfortunately, because whatever we do, however perfect our collection systems are, etc., it's inevitable that, unfortunately, some of this material is going to get into the environment. And you know, I think you've got to cover that aspect as well. So the material behavior in the environment is equally as important as directly collecting it.
So Neve and Rebecca, just thinking about, because you've both been pioneering, especially garment bags, into the fashion industry, are the top tips that you would give brands when they're considering, you know, their packaging and how they can make some changes to save the planet?
Rebecca, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Well, I would say the most important thing, I find a lot of brands, they are looking for solutions. There's a lot of research initially, there's a lot of questions. And I remember, because I went through all these myself, so I try and guide as much as I can. But greenwashing is certainly an issue, and it makes it really difficult for brands to know, what do I trust? Who is telling me the truth? And very importantly, I always recommend, it's also speak to the warehouse. Where is the product going to go? How are they then going to remove the bag at the end of the day? Because it's so important. There's no point in just finding a solution to something that says that it's sustainable and you've still got a nice clear bag. It needs to actually fit with the waste collection on the other side. which is what I love about Aquapak's technology, is we don't have to worry about it. It doesn't matter what kind of waste collection there's going to be. It's not going to cause any harm anyway. So it's actually an easier solution than having to change the whole collection system. So I find this really unique about Hydropol.
Yeah, I would just kind of mirror what Carl was saying about, you know, just starting somewhere. When we were looking to eradicate single-use plastic from our supply chain, the first, easiest, fastest thing that I could do was to get rid of our plastic Kimball, which is the little, you know, tie that keeps your hang tags on, and can be used as a security measure for e-commerce in particular. So, you know, if somebody hasn't tried something on or worn it because it's come back with the swing tag on. But we thought about all those options, and we opted to still go for a cotton tie, even though somebody could easily remove it, because it was more important to us to just start ticking things off of the list. And it is a journey, and it is, you know, it's evolutionary as well. You know, something new will come up, and, you know, things will constantly change as technology advances. And it's kind of trying to keep on top of it and keep a foot in the door, really, of new technologies as they're coming up. And I think gone are the days where you just launch something that's absolutely amazing and keep it under your hat because you're like, "Woo, I'm amazing and I've done that, and I don't want to tell anybody else where they can get it because I want exclusivity." For us, you know, we're happy to speak to brands, we're happy to speak to anybody and talk about our supply chains and share our journeys and advise people and mentor people as much as we can, because, you know, I think this only works if everybody helps each other.
So Zach, you mentioned a short while ago some stats about how little was recycled, and do you think that the move to more e-commerce is having an impact in the fashion world as well, that's driving change and people are suddenly more conscious because everything's coming to their home?
Yeah, I think so. I think.
Sorry, I think I've just muted you by mistake.
Yeah, I think we've all seen and you know the impact of last year and, you know, the pandemic on how how e-commerce has just gone through that. I was speaking to someone and they said it's actually increased the equivalent of 10 years in the past, you know, 1 year, because of, you know, buying habits have changed. But I think with the fashion industry relies a lot on it. They're soft items, you know, clothing, so that it does rely a lot on plastic products for transit. You know, we were talking the other day internally. You know, you see so many Amazon boxes in recycling bins now, and, you know, the potential tick boxes, well, actually, you know, they at least can be recycled curbside. I think that's the challenge around the fashion industry, just making sure that, you know, this delivery package is going through the roof, and that the end user has got an outlet to dispose of it responsibly, and that's the key factor. And at the moment, you know, I think unfortunately with the infrastructure in the UK, where you've got curbside recyclability, that's the key factor. Even you know, the guys that talked about earlier today, even the advancement in dedicated compostable films. Realistically, how many people know where they can go and compost? How many people have really got home composting at home? So, you know, with the Hydropol technology, you know, it gives us a route to develop a product that I can responsibly just like recycle and discard at home without that risk of it ending. You know, John mentioned earlier, you're always going to get spillover in some areas, but, you know, if the majority of curbside collection can take it, then it has to be a benefit.
So in terms of making changes so that we can make a difference to the planet, is there such a thing as a golden nugget or not? Carl, you kind of hinted at this, that maybe it's more of a gradual process than just a one quick fix.
Yeah, because I think, and I think everybody would agree, you know, if you look at your SKU portfolio, you know, it can be kind of overwhelming. So I think you got to target and you got to get started somewhere to kind of chip away at it. You know, it's pretty hard to execute, you know, everything all at once. So I think it's part of that whole portfolio management, multi-year effort tied with your company's, you know, sustainability mission, you know, kind of all tied together in a comprehensive sustainability plan for your business.
And Niamh, did you find that kind of when you were introducing, because I know that you started on certain product lines and then rolled it out as it gained momentum, do you feel that that's a good way for brands to start as well?
Yeah, we actually launched in the winter of 2019 on Just Knitwear out of Portugal. It was actually more to do with the supply chain thing, because when we first started investigating where we could make it, there wasn't actually anybody manufacturing. So all the trials had been done, and it was all proven, and all the technology was there. It was just that nobody was actually running garment bags through their business. And there was a bit of stop and start that happened as I approached bag manufacturers. Big manufacturers I found were less willing to stop a machine or stop a line to try it out. It's unknown, it's unheard of, we're not sure. They've got their orders in, they've got their bottom line, they just didn't want to take the risk on it. Found that smaller companies were way more willing to kind of go on the journey with you, and it was just getting those partnerships right. And with Aquapak and myself, we managed to find a couple of fits. So it was kind of a supply chain thing that started it off slowly for us, but then we launched it fully in spring, summer 2020. Yeah, and we've been using it across our whole range ever since.
And Rebecca, with now that supply is obviously a lot more available, are you finding again that people are kind of maybe doing a pilot scheme on one product line or one brand within their portfolio and then rolling things out?
Most of all, I'm finding that they do trials. So they'll order, let's say, a pack of 500 or 1,000 units and use that in the supply chains. Also, of course, they also have to speak to the actual factories. They need to know how to handle the material. They need to speak to the warehouse. They need to make sure that they understand how to remove the material afterwards. But yeah, absolutely, there are trials and there is testing. So of course, I give examples of clients that are already using the products as well. But yeah, everybody goes through the testing, and a lot of the brands have already tested other products and they've already failed. So I feel there's a lot of caution as to what can actually work, because in the end, we need to be protecting the garments. That's the value. So of course, it's essential to go through a trial and make sure that it actually works. So far, it's always working. But yeah, each brand is doing their trials. Absolutely.
That's great. And actually, one question that came in before the event was, if I can do this to you, John, is what testing kind of has taken place? Because obviously, we know that brands want the whole point of, say, the bags and the mailing bags is to protect the items as they're going through whether it's the post or from store to home. But what kind of testing should people look out for to ensure that whatever solution they go for is going to be better for the planet, rather than it's, right, okay, they say it's recyclable but not, or whatever? What would be your tips of what to look out for?
Well, I mean, clearly you've got to go, for the front end functionality first to make sure that all the normal criteria for exactly what Rebecca said, protecting the garment, it actually works. Printability, clarity, etc. You've got to make some careful choices on things like, how much of the bag is being printed. So what are you using in terms of inks, etc. Because clearly, if our base material Hydropol is environmentally favorable, you don't want to sort of taint that by using something which takes you in another direction. So you've got to be cognizant about those sort of things. And obviously, it's what your question is. It's what your aim point is. In Finisterre's case, it was very much around marine, in terms of that potential problem. So our background data, our background work around testing our material to some of the standards that are out there already, which I think are now becoming arguably less accepted as telling you the real truth. And we knew that sort of 4 years ago. We knew that, which is why we set up our own program with Heriot-Watt University to study the behavior of this material in marine conditions. And we shared all this data with Finisterre. And working carefully, I think, with the supply chain. I mean, working with Finisterre was brilliant because you got all the questions you never thought of. It's the unknown questions. You never know as the resin supplier. Never thought of that. You know, and we did logistics and transportation and stress tests and all sorts of stuff. So you know, you've got to go the whole 9 yards to get this done, and you've got to back it up with data. You know, because there's a lot of people out there claiming a lot of things, but when you go and drill down into the data, it's not there. Well, you come to Hydropol and it is there. So.
And I know, Neve, that Finisterre, as a B Corp, you do an impact report each year. So has your move in packaging also helped that as well? And is that something, again, other brands can pick up on and use to kind of really measure how they're making an impact in the environment?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the B Corp certification, you have to do it every 2 years, and when you do it, it's retrospective in a way, because you're looking into the past, like what have you done in the last 18 months. So the true impacts, I think, of using the Hydropol bags will only come out next year in that impact report. So it's the reports are a little bit behind the curve, but yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction for us as a brand, and for the world in general, I think, and more importantly, the world. And actually, sorry, there's just a question in the chat there from Marie Taylor, who was asking what kind of support we receive from Aquapak. From my own personal experience, Marie, absolutely amazing. I couldn't be partnered with a better company. Very, very supportive. As John was saying, with, you know, we bombarded them with a lot of questions, a lot of random questions, but you know, we demand a lot from Aquapak, but Aquapak have never failed us. They can deliver any question we've ever asked John, there is an answer to, and it's, you know, it's watertight, and they're just a brilliant brand to get involved with.
Thank you, that's great to hear, Neve. Something we did promise everybody is just to kind of give a little bit of a view of what's actually available, but actually, Neve, you very kindly just gave some testimonials of people, which kind of backs up your earlier point of how your consumers are actually helping you promote the packaging as well as your products. Has that been quite surprising for you, or had you hoped that might happen when you were introducing this?
Yeah, it's not massively surprising to me, because our customers are very invested in us as a business. They're very ecologically aware, and you know, they challenge us constantly. So I'm pleasantly surprised at the level that, you know, taking it up. We even had a local college do a science experiment on our bags and report back to us, and it's been brilliant, actually, really, really lovely. And yeah, we get lots and lots of feedback in person as well with our stores. People coming back in saying, "Oh my God, we melted our bags and it was amazing." Kids were just screaming, and you know, it's really good fun. And yeah, it's really nice that, you know, you take a chance on something, don't you? And you hope, like, fingers crossed, that you're doing a really good thing. And when you get this kind of feedback, it's confidence and reassurance that, you know, that people love it, and that they're on board with it as well. And like you say, they're promoting it for you as well. You know, so many people are like tagging other people in our posts and saying, "Have you seen this? You need to do this," and challenging other brands as well. It can get quite feisty, actually. It's nice to see. Yeah.
No, that sounds great. So thank you for sharing those. That's wonderful. So yeah, so we've mentioned, for people who are listening, some of the solutions. So obviously Finisterre were the first fashion brand to introduce garment bags. And Rebecca, you're now obviously one of the people who's helping lots of different brands experience these. If they want samples, do they come to you directly, Rebecca? How can they buy?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they can do that directly on the website. So ecogarmentbags.com. Go to the order section. There are sample packs available.
Excellent. And obviously as well, brands, if they're, for example, in the US, feel free to contact us and Carl. And we've mentioned the mailing bag, which that's been working with Aquapak on as well. So again, if you're interested in that, there will be samples if you've ticked when you registered as well. But Carl and John, I know that there's some other things in the offering as well, which we've been looking at in terms of the fashion industry. So in terms of kind of swing hang tags and paper shoppers and joiners, and I know there's a question on the chat as well about smaller plastic items such as buttons. Do you want to kind of share some of those of what we're doing and how
Sure.
Hydropol could help?
Sure. So one of the questions that came in was about peripheral products like buttons and other plastic parts. And as the opening photo showed, the Hydropol polymer is a thermoplastic, very much like a traditional thermoplastic. So you can melt it not only into film and bags, but also into three-dimensional shapes and pieces. So we do have grades that are injection moldable. So in answer to that question that came in from our audience, the answer is yes. So it's a pretty flexible polymer platform that way. And we've also talked about peripheral products specifically for the fashion industry, hang tags, other types of bags, other type of fastening devices for sure can be made out of Hydropol.
So in terms of the swing or hang tags, that basically that's the card or paper laminated with Hydropol to give the strength, which I know Rebecca mentioned earlier, but in terms of security to stop people ripping it off or swapping them over, as well as to get them more durable. Because I know this is just a picture of yours, Neve, but are there some downsides of just using uncoated kind of paper and card?
Sometimes you can get, if the ink isn't fixed properly, if a production run is rushed or something, you could always get color transfer. If you've got a black swing tag on a white t-shirt, the last thing you want is color transfer. So having a laminate option is really amazing if it can be a Hydropol option, because you can maintain, you can keep it looking better for longer and stop any kind of transfer.
Great, thank you. So what I'll do is, I've noticed that there's a few questions coming in, so I'll have a look at those. And if anybody's got anything else, please do add them onto the chat as well. So we've probably just answered this one actually, but can Hydropol be used to make buttons or other small pieces of plastic, or is it currently only possible to make bags? So Carl, yes, you've indicated that there's trials going on at the moment in terms of some other items.
Yeah. So injection molding work is ongoing and expanding, which is pretty exciting. So that would tie right into that question and that application potential. So again, being a pretty flexible polymer platform ties right into injection molding. So yeah.
Oh, could I just ask a question actually on the injection molding? With Hydropol being dissolving polymer, so do you just set the temperature higher? Maybe it's a John question. But do you just set the temperature higher so that you don't get degradation? Because if it's a button on a shirt or something and you're putting it in the wash, how does it work?
Yeah, you can tailor it. Sorry, Carl.
Go ahead, John. Yep.
I was going to say you can tailor it in terms of dissolving temperature. So we just use a different grade of Hydropol, which is actually what we've been looking at in the injection molding side anyway. So you can almost take it whichever way you like. You can make it go faster, or you can make it hardly go at all.
Ah. So could you use it for something like milk cartons, things like that in the future, maybe? Yeah,
I mean, as a developed material, we've got a number of things coming through now that are at different levels of trialing in different applications. So packaging across the whole packaging range, there's almost take it where you like, actually.
Oh, that's amazing.
Thank you. So I think there's a question for you, John. How long does Hydropol last if it gets into an ocean? How long does it take to disappear? And also, if it's disposed into effluent, how long does it last? A few questions on that one.
Yeah, the ocean question is a really interesting one, because clearly, as we all know, the oceans vary a lot in terms of temperature, weather, time of year, etc. Salinity, even in some cases. So a lot of the existing test methods are fairly artificial. You look at the standard tests; they sit around sort of 30-35 degrees testing in certain artificial salinity water, and they look for biodegradation, which is okay. It's fine. It gives an indication of whether something's going to go or not. So we've done those tests. So ASTM D6691, for example, is one version of that. There are ISO versions and EU EN versions as well, which we've undertaken to comply with those particular standards and test methods. But we took it a little bit further than that, because we had two other questions around it. One was to represent how it would really react in real ocean conditions, which was the Harriet Watt work, which is coming to a conclusion. So how fast these things go in terms of a film form, for example, if it's in the North Atlantic in winter, as opposed to, say, the Indian Ocean in summer, for example. So that has an effect. But the time-wise, you're still looking at months, not years, for this material to go and biodegrade. It doesn't go through any toxic sort of scenario as standard plastic materials do in the ocean. That's the biggest issue, is the toxicity effect, irrespective of whether they biodegrade or not, in actual fact. So we've sort of attacked it from those two angles. So the answer to the time question in the ocean is certainly months. If it's warmer conditions, it will be quicker. If it's slightly colder conditions, it'll be slower. But the important thing is it does not go through any toxic phase or attract toxic materials to it. So you don't have that road crash mess of a toxic material in the ocean. In terms of captured water systems, that's a really good place for it to go, actually, because it's totally measured and it's totally controlled. And whether that goes into a wastewater system, which is aerobic or anaerobic, it makes no difference to Hydropol. Will biodegrade anyway, and will biodegrade in the time that the wastewater system standardly handles it.
Great. And I know a question we got a lot when Finisterre launched was the effect of, if bags get into the ocean and then eaten by turtles or whales, what happens to them then? Will it actually hurt the animal?
No, it's if a marine mammal eats it, then it's digestible. In fact, we can digest it. Classically, this polymer is used in tablet coatings, for example. So it's well documented and proven that this material can be digested, particularly in mammalian species, but also actually from work we did earlier in crustaceans, for example, as well. So you don't get that buildup of plastic toxicity in the ecosystems of these animals.
Thank you. So Peter's asked, we're receiving interest from large apparel brands, and a question asked was for end-of-life certification. Can you advise how we should respond? Is that something that we should answer directly, depending on the type of questions they're asking, or is that something that we can direct them to on our website, John?
Yeah, website is a good place to start. We've got, as you know, Anna, because you put it together, there's a lot of information on there for them to go on. But we'll support anybody if they've got questions around end of life in terms of what it is they're trying to get to.
Yeah, so that's on the technical page of our website. And you mentioned also there, Peter, about the marine certification. So yeah, if you have a look on there or come back to us if you can't find what you need, we'll definitely help you. Shirley asks, is it possible to reuse Hydropol waste during the production process? And if so, how do we do it? Put it directly or have to go through repelletizing processes? Can you answer that one, John?
Yeah, I'll give that to Carl.
Oh, is that Carl?
I'll start and then John can tie in. So being a thermoplastic pellet, it's very, it's very common for thermoplastics to be reground and repelletized and put back into a process. And Hydropol is similar that way. I would say it's early days for a lot of folks as they scale up production with Hydropol, where the economics start to make sense to put that back in. But it behaves like a traditional thermoplastic that way. It can be reground, collected, repelletized, remelted, reused. Yes.
Great, thank you. I am just checking the questions. So a question regarding, have we any experience using blockchain technology within the production or supply chains? that one for you, John?
Hopefully not, because I don't understand the question.
Question for our finance group, right? Yeah.
We'll come back to you on that one. And for Rebecca and Neve, the ink that you guys used, is that non-toxic as well? And how have you kind of gone through the process of kind of certifying that or checking that?
Yep. We wanted to use a water-based ink, but it just wasn't fit for purpose, basically. We need the ink to stay on the bag. So we opted for a food safe ink, so it is non-toxic, yeah, and it is regulated as well. There is an EU number, John, you might know it off the top of your head, but I don't know it off the top of my head, but it is, yeah, it's all certified and food safe, basically.
Fantastic. Unless anybody else has got any questions, I think we have gone through everything anybody's asked. But just my huge thanks to Neve and Rebecca, Zach, John and Carl for joining me today for such a good discussion. If anybody does have any more questions, please do feel free to email them to me at marketing@aquapakpolymers.com. So it's the same as the one on the screen, but just put marketing at the front, and I'll be very happy to direct and come back to you with that. But thank you all for your time. We've really enjoyed answering that and discussing this with you, and we look forward to your questions in due course. Thank you again.